Hello and welcome. I'm Uday Pratap Singh. You're joining us on this special broadcast of NewsX and Business World panels on the Indian economy. And of course, as always, we have a special panel for you, a power packed panel for you. Joining us on the broadcast today is Sudhakar Gandhi, Chief Executive Officer and Co-Chairman of FICCI, Aerospace and Defense Committee and Jupiter Capital. Also with us is Shubhakant Panda, the Chairman of the National Manufacturing Committee of FICCI. Also with us, Anurag Agula, Co-Founder and CEO, Shopmatic. Atul Pandey joins the panel as well. He's partner of Khaitan and Company. Diksha Deo, Founder and CEO of InCubeSense, is also joining us live. Nishant Behel is also with us, Founder and CEO of XMyB. And Dr. Anurag Batra, Chairman and Editor-in-Chief of Business World and Exchange for Media Group, joins the panel as well. Welcome all of you. Thank you so much for joining us. Sudhakarji, if I can begin with you first on, on your assessment of where we stand as of now. COVID impact has been huge. The lockdown impact has, of course, been huge. How much of help has the financial stimulus announced by the government and the RBI's monetary measures actually aided Indian economy, and what all is left to be done?
See, within the given constraints and complications the government had, the financial stimulus package they announced was pretty good. It has three components. If you look at one is the relief part, that is relief for NBFCs, MSMEs, whole lot of sectors. Second was forbearance, that is giving extra time for payment of interest, principal, etc. And third was extra time for compliance, etc. So the starting point was good in terms of the package, but the issues relating is up to the implementation. That is where we have a serious issue. For example, the reliefs given to MSME sector, I'm taking one example. After several weeks, we go by Finance Minister's tweet, they have done about 30% of things have been completed. Whatever the target, they are 2 lakh crores, they've done about 68,000 crores. Okay, if you look at a country like US, they announced a series of stimulus packages. In few weeks is implemented. So the issue is implementation. Okay? Maybe banks they take their extra time. Maybe individuals take extra time. So one of the strong recommendations I would like to make is there should be a task force to monitor the mechanism of what government has announced. There is a series of measures announced by RBI was very good in terms of liquidity. The series of announcements announced by Finance Minister were good, but the issue is on the implementation. So if you ask me, starting is good. Implementation under progress, this is something possibly we need to be more realistic, and we have to drive the process.
Sagar, I want to ask you a direct question.
Yeah.
As Jupiter Capital in the past, you made acquisitions, investments. So as an investor, I want you to don your investor hat. Do you see lots of mergers and acquisitions happening over the next 3 months because valuations are attractive? So if a cash-rich company like yours, possibly, would you look at more acquisitions? And
yes,
overall see more mergers, acquisitions happening?
Yes, Anurag, there are opportunities given that the liquidity issues in the market, and also some of the companies not doing that well. So there will be an opportunities, and I can tell you that in the next 3 to 6 months, there will be some consolidation and acquisition, including by us. We will be looking at it. And a lot of investors like us also looking at these opportunities.
Okay, Sudhakar. Let's go to Mr. Panda. Mr. Panda, your quick comment on where the economy is headed. How do you see the economic stimulus? And manufacturing in a lot of areas is between 80 to 95%. Where do you see manufacturing coming back to 100%?
So first of all, to get to the issue of the economic stimulus package, as Sudhakarji mentioned, there has been an announcement both by the RBI of monetary measures. The government has announced fiscal measures, and given the constraints that we have as an economy, given the fact that going into the COVID-19 situation, there were already some slowing down of the economy to some extent. I think under the circumstances, what could have been done has been done. And I'm sure that the government is also monitoring it at the highest levels to look at what further can be done. In my opinion, I would say what's needed now is some sort of a demand stimulation. And I am a strong advocate, as has FICCI been, of looking at infrastructure as the way out of for the next let's say a few quarters or years, because the advantage of investing in infrastructure is that it straight away provides a stimulus to the economy. That is number one. And second, I mean, all of us in any case talk about the fact that, for us to be a modern, developed nation, we have to have world-class infrastructure. And while that has happened in certain areas like airports, etc., there is surely a lot of improvement possible in other aspects. So, I think infrastructure has that ability, or spending on infrastructure, I should say rather, has that ability to both be a stimulus to the economy at this point in time, as well as, the end product is something that will make India an even more attractive investment destination. Your other question about when will manufacturing revive? Like you correctly said, I mean, I think slowly and steadily, manufacturing has picked up. I think, it's a little difficult at this point in time to say when we will be back to pre-COVID situation. I think in certain sectors, we will get there quicker than others, but certain sectors like hospitality or tourism, etc., are obviously going to take a lot longer to revive. As far as manufacturing is concerned, again, I guess it's going to be somewhat sectoral to see how things are panning out.
And it will depend on the demand also.
Absolutely. The problem here,
manufacture completely because there isn't that much demand.
Right, and the problem here is that what you're seeing is actually a wave of unlock and lockdowns and unlock happening. So that the world is not going into a lockdown situation at once or opening up together. So even within India, some states have now once again announced lockdowns for the second half of July. So all of this will sort of add to the uncertainty. But you know what? I mean, we have to do what we have to do to save lives. But I'm glad that there is a focus on saving livelihoods as well.
Thank you. We'll come
Mr.
back
Pandey, another quick follow-up though,
yes,
on the manufacturing sector. Now, in every adversity, of course, there's an opportunity. One opportunity is there for the manufacturing sector as well. In terms of course, exports, in terms of increasing our presence in global supply chains, and also, of course, in getting foreign companies to manufacture in India rather than, say, a destination like China. So, to encourage this further, what should the government do? And do you believe that there is actually an opportunity, or is this more talk and no action?
No, I certainly believe there is a lot of opportunity in, given the geopolitical aspect of it, and the world is certainly realizing that being overtly dependent on any one country is not the ideal position to be in. So I certainly think there is a lot of opportunity. And I think what the Honorable Prime Minister has done in terms of announced that this is the opportunity for us to announce broader reforms, faster reforms. And I do believe that at the highest levels of government, they're looking at it very deeply. We have also been, as FICCI, interacting at various levels and giving in suggestions as to what can be done. But, here the point I would like to make is that it's not just going back 5 years or 10 years, but if you actually look back the last 25, 30 years, manufacturing's share as a percentage of GDP has been stubbornly around 15, 16%. Various governments, including this government, has said that it wants to push it up to 25%, if not more. But there are certain fundamental factors. So you can, land, labor, capital, these are issues which need to be tackled. But having said that, I think we also need to look at what are the short-term opportunities on which we can build and start the process of Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Okay. I want to come back to you on demand. And Uday, today, one of the large Apple manufacturers has, applied for a license in India to manufacture. So I think you will see a lot of large manufacturers shifting to India. That's my hunch. It is possible that Apple may shift all its operations to India, if not substantial operations to India. Mr. Pandey, your comments on where the economy is headed and how do you see the economic stimulus?
So I will, thank you, Mr. Batra. So I will go to Mr. Uday's comment when he has mentioned that every crisis has an opportunity. And here, basically, in this crisis, when we are advising as Ketan, 150 partner large law firm, and we are interacting with the government as well as investors day in, day out, and with most of the business houses as well as the groups. I think most of them are looking at the economic stimulus as well as the policy measures which has been taken by the government in the recent past. And as India is attracting as well, foreign investment is allowed in most of the sectors under 100% automatic route. specifically in manufacturing. And so we see a lot of potential, so far as foreign investment is concerned. And with a lot of relaxations which has been given by the government recently in terms of the corporate compliances, so we feel that this will also ease down the burden of compliances, and it will ensure that the businesses are more focused towards their core areas instead of following up on the compliances. So my take is that yes, it is a good opportunity to kind of relook into the existing technicalities, and then of course with the government's policy. For example, in defense, you would have seen that government has opened up defense sector up to 74% under the automatic route, which means that there's a lot of opportunity for Indian companies as well as foreign defense manufacturers to collaborate with Indian joint venture partners and ensure that the manufacturing is taking place in India so far as indigenous equipments are concerned. Similarly, in the chemical sector, in the healthcare sector, we see a lot of opportunities coming in where the investors are showing their interest. So these are the sectors when I feel that a lot of investment is going to come, and businesses are, kind of positive and bullish in the coming days once the economy is back on track.
Mr. Pandey, if you had to put a number to India's FDI over the next 12 months, would you like to take an informed guess? Because I know you work with a lot of large players trying to enter India, and that's why I'm asking you this question.
So as I mentioned that there are a lot of investments which are in pipeline. For example, as you have mentioned, Apple, which is looking to shift its manufacturing base from China to India. Besides that, we see a lot of interest from Taiwanese companies and the global companies which are already there in China who are looking to shift their bases from China to India. Like you had seen, some of the companies have already taken those steps. So in that context, I see a lot of, if you ask me a definite number, definitely I will not be in a position to, but my sense is that in next 3 to 6 months, you would be seeing at least approximately 15 to 20 billion investment coming in India through various foreign investors.
What's your take, Atul, on force majeure as well? How much of a role is that going to be playing in civil and corporate suits going ahead? There's still no concrete ruling on force majeure. Which can be a barometer and of course, a benchmark for other rulings in multiple courts of India. What's your take on that?
So force majeure is obviously, contractual arrangement depending on the sector as well as depending on, what is the business activity and whether the time is of essence, and, because of the force majeure conditions, it has not been practical now to enforce, the obligation of the parties. But having said that, there are settled judgments, which has been given by various high courts as well as Supreme Court so far as force majeure is concerned. And I think, of course, because of the COVID reasons, a lot of, companies as well as business houses, they are either looking to, invoke force majeure clauses in their contracts because of, the financial difficulties which they are facing. But having said that, so far as law is concerned, there is a settled position with respect to each sector. For example, for real estate, there is a settled position. And then obviously courts have also, in past taken very pragmatic approach in terms of what should be categorized as a force majeure event or not. So I don't see much of litigation, around the uncertainty of what would constitute a force majeure. But yes, it would be innovative considering Corona itself, is a kind of unique, has created a unique situation, and because of which, of course, courts have to relook into, depending on the facts and situation. But to answer to your query, I think force majeure is already a settled, I should say contractual arrangement, and I don't see many major impact because of force majeure conditions, which is going to hamper investment activities in India.
Okay, Anurag, your opening comments on how the economic stimulus has been, and where do you see the economy headed?
So thanks, Anurag. I think the economic stimulus by the government has been quite extensive in the form that it could actually make it happen. And the constant question of the rock and a hard place between lives and livelihood always tends to sort of come into the fore. I think from our perspective, we play in a very interestingly digital sector. And we've seen, as part of the conversation about consumer demand, we've actually seen that actually rise digitally while there is, so that sort of augurs well in the sense that there is an inherent demand by consumers to be able to consume different products, be it retail, home and decor, or even for that essential services. And the idea for us to be able to support businesses towards that direction, coupled with the stimulus that the government has given, is one thing. However, I think one area where I think that we could actually do a lot more is to invest behind more e-commerce technologies and digitalization, where it allows businesses to be able to reach their consumers from that standpoint. So I do think that from an Indian context, I think it's going to be a long haul. We're gradually starting to see some embers of the new growth coming through. And I think we'll just have to continue to invest behind different channels for making businesses able to access their consumers and to be able to support that.
Thank you, Anurag. We'll come back to you. Diksha, again, your opening comments on...
He's not there with us just yet.
He's not been able to join. We'll ask Nishant. Nishant, you heard the other panelists. They're optimistic about where India is headed, where the Indian economy is headed. Your comments, please.
Right. Thank you so much, Anurag. So, what I feel, we are specifically into the services sector. And, we are very closely working with a lot of SMEs and MSMEs, right? So my entire notion about this situation is I understand these are abnormal times, but people are sticking to it. And, even speaking to a lot of international buyers, the sentiment to outsource a lot of stuff to India is right there in the pipeline, right? So the thing is, I think we run companies, we start companies because we're optimistic people, right? So the thing is, this entire theory is based on the optimism that this economy will go up. And as a nation, I'm pretty sure that, how the things are shaping up, given that the global scenario is shifting towards India, I think the next couple of decades are definitely going to be India's. And I think a lot of people are specifically mentioning about the manufacturing. I personally believe that even the service sector is something which will be thing to look out for in the next couple of decades.
Okay, so you've struck quite an optimistic note there, Nishant. So what you're clearly, of course, saying is that services sector also is something that this opportunity that could be benefited by this current situation. But things aren't currently good. How long do you believe things will take to pick up? So what's your 3-month prospect? What's your 3-month forecast rather? What's your 6-month forecast, and what's your 1-year forecast?
Right. So Uday, I would like to share something which is very interesting. So what happened once Corona kicked in, right? The first couple of months were actually very, very low. But what we have seen, started seeing as an organization in the last couple of months, and especially in the last couple of weeks, right? Things have started coming up. As Mr. Anurag also mentioned, right? We are in the digital space, and people are actually now coming back because they have realized that there's no thing like post-Corona. I think now this is the new culture. This is the way things are going to progress. There will be, I always refer to this term BC. This will be before Corona, right? Things are going to be changing for good. And I have already started, seeing there's a positive sentiment amongst the business owners to, move digitally. And very honestly, speaking of KPIs, of course, there's no educated opinion on that as such right now, because this is an abnormal situation. Had it been the good days, I would have definitely, made some good calls on what I feel in terms of numbers. But right now, what I feel, based on sentiment and based on understanding of how people are approaching our company and people are, taking services, I feel that, this sector is definitely going to go up. The next 6 months are mostly going to be survival, but post that, whoever sticks and whoever, has that perseverance to go through it, I think there's a lot in store for everybody out there.
Sagar, you've seen many downturns, you've seen the exuberance of markets, and suddenly they're melting away. Tell us what makes the current crisis, if I may call it a crisis, from an economic standpoint unique. And while there are unique challenges, what are the opportunities there?
See, Anurag, there is no comparable in the last 100 years the situation we are in, okay, to start with. So that is starting point. But again, to answer your question, if you look at, there are definitely, even in these times, there are opportunities, okay? But there are certain things possibly government has to do and industry has to respond, okay? One of the things I strongly believe, government should get a little more aggressive on borrowing. Maybe 1 to 2% of India's GDP they should borrow in global markets and pump in that into the whole internal system, into the system. That is one thing I feel is a point to discuss, point to review. Second is this Chinese opportunity we're talking about, manufacturing moving to India. Okay, nothing is going to move overnight, but one point is very certain is nobody is going to put huge factories in China in the near future. That will come to India. Point number one. Point number two, some of those things, global supply chains will start moving because we also got one or two inquiries already. Okay, slowly moving it. Like you said about Foxconn, announcing $1 billion investment. So from Chinese transfer from China's new business will definitely come to India. High possibility. Some of the old business is shifting over a period of time. Third important thing is how do we respond to this? Possibly the government should look at a kind of mechanism where the central government, the state government, together work together, saying that look, these are the space I would like to work on, aerospace, these two specific sectors, manufacturing somebody else, etc. Like you have in US, like if you go to Seattle, there's the biggest factory of Airbus, sorry, not Boeing. So there should be more cooperation between central state governments to capture this opportunity, because this is the opportunity for India. It is beyond politics. It is everybody's interest. Third, there are a few things government also got to look at. Something I was reading the interesting article. In UK, they have announced any consumer spend, they're forcing you to spend, because one of my directors in one of our companies is a British guy. So he was telling me, if you go for shopping, you get your VAT credited back, almost 70-80%. They're forcing you to spend. Maybe government should look at, okay, fine, why can't we give GST credit out of 18%, let's say 12% back, 15% back, so that the money is spent. Equally important thing is, there should be a mechanism where the money should go into the guys who are spending the money, whatever you call it. For example, you take MSME sector. Government can announce a salary credit for this sector for next 12 months. Like you look at France, Germany, we have operations in all these countries. 70% of salary is given by government as credit. Whenever you don't have, the company is not able to pay, cash flows are not permitting. So those guys' lifestyle is not completely changed to some extent. If you look at one practical thing, because after you called me yesterday to a panel speaker, I spoke to a few guys. They told me one of the most difficult things people are not understanding is the salaried class between who earns about 25, 30, 40,000 on the lower side, maybe a lakh on the higher side. They're really so this is maybe one thing we should look at it. Just to add one more point is some of the select sectors government has to move in very fast.
And which are those?
Aviation, hospitality. Hospitality employ millions of people. Hospitality, aviation. Then you have some part of real estate, not the full commercial real estate. Some part of the real estate. Okay. So these are the areas government has to step in to say, clear cut. Okay, these are these 3-4 sectors. We are giving these reliefs. It could be a relief of from banking system. Let us say no payment of principal interest for next 2 years. Okay, after 30 years you can come back to normal. Okay, then you can say, like for example, US has done a very good, brilliant thing. We have a subsidiary in US. The government has announced we will give 1% loan for 5 years. Bullet.
Yeah.
You make sure this goes to your employees or whatever urgent requirements. They won't disburse as of yesterday. So possibly there is a series of few things government has to do to make sure this is go to the hands of the people who can spend the money, which will move the economy. The last point what I want to say is, as Panda said, infrastructure. There are two infrastructure. One is normal infrastructure. Government should go all out to create jobs, create work for people, etc. in the infrastructure side. Equally important is possibly health infrastructure. Government can do few things on the health infrastructure side. So if you do series of these things, and I don't see any difficulty. Of course, they will be, the numbers are rising. Okay.
Anurag, also is the recovery going to be, and Anurag Avula, there are two Anurags today on the panel, so you're going to have to specify who we're referring to. You know,
I just want to say, Uday, before you bring Mullah, Sudhakar, it is proven. I'm just supporting what you said, that when jobs are created, there is a trickle-down impact on every sector. The demand gets created from number of jobs, and demand are linked. So if the economy uplifts, it will show up, and that will show up. It is in every economy of the world. JR supports that. So I'm just saying what you're saying is bang on. Anurag,
Anurag, you do believe that the recovery is going to be the easiest for those companies that have a digital component attached to them, a digital innovation, an e-commerce platform, digital education, so anything which is attached to that digital domain, the recovery will be the fastest. And actually, they've witnessed a lot of growth as well in the last couple of months in certain instances.
Yeah, firstly, there's no bias in me answering the question in an affirmative, absolutely yes, because that's what we do in any case to enable businesses to go digital. But what we've seen is that we've seen two things happen with our solutions in the market, is that businesses have adapted and changed and morphed into leveraging digital technologies and to be able to grow their business. So we've seen an increase of about 250% in transactions from the first quarter of this year, which was obviously in some sense pre-COVID, to a time from April, May, June, when the transactions actually almost went up by 2.5 times, which means businesses were generating a lot on the digital side. So that clearly has obviously played its part in that sense. And the businesses that have, the general joke is that the COVID has been the one that has actually pushed businesses to go digital more than the CEO or the COO in companies. So that essentially has obviously played its part in that. And also from being very specific to sectors within businesses as well, knowing fully well that kiranas and the grocery stores and the mom and pop shops that are really struggling to make ends meet, and for them to be able to leverage technologies to sell it to the condominium right next to themselves, really made a big difference to that. So adoption of digital right now is not an option but an imperative in our view.
Another, if I may say, if your business, any business is not tech, then it won't either be efficient and in some cases not even survive. So it depends on what. So, whether it's the media, Google, Facebook they're technology companies, but in my view, the media tech company. You take education, every education, in fact, a traditional business school, educational institutions have to adopt and are adopting to educate technology even more. And the asset-light model is again into play. I'm not sure about the sharing economy, because the sharing economy with COVID has suddenly given rise to an unsharing economy.
Mr. Panda, quickly coming back to you at this point. Now, you are, of course, an important post holder in FICCI as well. FICCI and CII as important, industry bodies, and of course NASSCOM as well, are constantly in dialogue with government. Is that dialogue currently ongoing? Is the government seeking your active advice because of the evolving situation? We currently haven't reached peak levels of the pandemic. Do you also believe that there is need for a further financial stimulus package and perhaps more measures by the RBI this year itself, or should the government hold off till after the peak is passed?
Well, let me answer the last question first. I think it's going to be very difficult to predict when the peak is, and therefore to predicate stimulus measures on when the peak will be, I'm not sure is the right approach. But I think, as has been said by various panelists on the show, that the government should look at what has been done thus far. I think, given the limitations, is actually quite good. And they've reached out and targeted MSMEs, which, as far as corporate sector goes, that is where the maximum focus needs to be there. They've reached out to the underprivileged portions of society and extended a helping hand. I think all of that is brilliant. In terms of further stimulus, I think first and foremost, it needs to be very targeted. It can't be a broad brush anymore. It needs to be targeted to sectors which are, which need greater handholding than others. But I guess it can also be targeted to sectors where there is a lot of potential and they need help to get over the hump, if I can put it that way, to deal with the situation that COVID has brought about. In terms of interactions that I can obviously only talk about the interactions that FICCI has had. Yes, we have certainly interacted with the government at various levels. And I think one of which is something I alluded to when I spoke earlier as well. I think clearly something that the Honorable Prime Minister is looking to do is seize this as an opportunity to bring about greater reforms. And if I may dwell upon something which Mr. Pandey mentioned, which is compliances. Just to share a little bit of data with you, in as much as Indian companies are concerned, the instances of compliances in a year range between 2,000 to 3,000. Whereas if you look at a similar sized company in Vietnam or in Thailand, I believe that number is closer to 500. So this is something that I think the government is keen on looking at, keen on taking inputs on archaic laws which can be repealed. Let me cite something which is very interesting. When we were doing a research for a paper to put across, we came across some interesting ones. So there are rules dating back to 1963, which is the maternity rules for circus and mines. Now, that has no business being in the statute. Now, in all fairness, that's not something which is actually creating, creating problem for anybody who's operating today. But it just, a lot of cleaning up is required. And even if you look at something like the Factories Act, which is the all-encompassing rule under which industrial establishments work, it's very prescriptive at this point in time. And, for example, there are regulations stating how many times urinals needs to be whitewashed in a year, and the answer is 3 or 4 or something of that sort. So we have to move away from being a very prescriptive approach to regulation to what I would, rely on that very famous phrase of trust but verify, which is move to a phase of self-certification, allow companies with the resources to self-certify, have random audits so that nobody is making, taking advantage of the situation, and have exemplary punishment for anybody who tries to take advantage of the situation of self-certification. And I think these are the sort of inputs that government is keen on getting. Certainly FICCI has been passing on, and I'm sure others have been as well. And I believe that, they will take it on board and use this opportunity to bring about lasting change, because, we can talk about being an alternate to China, but we also have to, that is not something which can be taken for granted. Certainly geopolitics has given us an opportunity which was not there 3 months or 6 months ago, or a better opportunity. But we also have to do our bit to not just lay out the red carpet in letter, but in spirit, and see what all can be done to make, to attract investment and to make it also friendly for industries which are already up and running to have smooth sailing.
Okay, Dr. Batra.
I just want to ask you, Mr. Panda, one of the big negative discoveries of the COVID has been the bottom of the pyramid laborers, the workforce that helps us in manufacturing in various sectors. And they went away to their local places, and government has rightly done a direct money transfer to their accounts if they have Jan Dhan account and so on and so forth. Do you think the labor will come back so as to make sure that the cost of labor doesn't go up in manufacturing?
I've actually heard mixed reactions to that. In our own operations, fortunately, we are entirely, we have labor drawn from the locality. So that's not something that I can talk about from personal experience in the industry that I run. But what I hear from others is two stories. One, that certainly labor is moving back because, as everybody has been talking, June and what July looks like is going to be good. You're slowly getting back to some sort of normal. Demand is coming back. So there is, as industries get back to operations and the level of capacity utilization increases, certainly there is a need for labor. But I've also heard about, some other versions of the story. So I think that's going to be a tough one. But ultimately, it's going to be a question of matching, demand and supply. States like Odisha are also looking at, creating opportunities for labor, which has come back to the state. So, I think that's a complex one to answer, honestly.
Okay. And dare I say, there was a guest on our show who did say that, because the overall economic activity, at least in the short term, may shrink and the labor will come back even at lower rates. That was another viewpoint. I'm not saying that's the right viewpoint or should be the way forward. Mr. Pandey, one of the concerns have been that a lot of small, mid-sized startups in the last 3.5 months have gone to very little revenues, in some cases close to zero revenues. They've also not been able to raise capital. So they may shut down in the next few weeks, few months, because no revenues, no capital coming in. Do you think that fear is a real fear, or is it an exaggerated fear? Startup shutting shop.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Definitely.
I think you are absolutely right. Specifically, a lot of these startups are dependent on foreign investment. And as we had also seen that a lot of these startups are backed by the investors, from Chinese money. So basically, a lot of Chinese investors had been backing up these startups. And because of certain restrictions which have been placed in the last 2 months on the Chinese investments under the government approval route, so we are seeing that a lot of these startups are now running out of cash. And because, while the corona impact was there, this new regulation has also kind of created some sort of impact on their ongoing businesses. And in that process, while these startups are looking to kind of generate money either in form of foreign investment or through the domestic funding channel, but the concern is absolutely genuine that in case if government would not come up with some plan, although government has tried to, specifically in relation to MSMEs, etc., certain economic stimulus package which has been announced would also get applicable in case of startups. But the thing is that, like the Mudra Yojana scheme, something like has to be implemented by the government. Some sort of fund is to be created to support these startups. And like we had just got, 2 days back, it was announced by Google that they would be investing around 10 billion in India over the next 5 to 7 years. So the idea is to kind of support a lot of the startups which are into the digital technology, innovative platforms. So I think that would definitely help. But definitely there is a need of greater push from the government to create some sort of funds to specifically help these startups coming back on track so far as their business activities are.
Sudhakar, you actually funded a lot of companies, lots of startups, both as Jupiter Capital and as an angel investor and mentor to many startups. What is your viewpoint on this?
See, Anurag, in this, what happens is one, the startup valuation will get realistic to start with. Second, they have to get in the real world. Real world means cash flow, how many months money you have.
Where cost is less than revenue. First time entrepreneurs are looking at cost being lesser than revenue.
In real money. Third, now I can see some of the startups which talk to me, they say, okay, I have money for next 1 year. I cut down my cost this much, but this is my revenue, I'm able to manage. So one good thing will happen is some of the startup guys who are really business oriented or got some technology advantage. For example, we funded one artificial intelligence company. Okay. So earlier they were looking at a very high valuation, but now today they're realistic, plus they're able to transfer part of the things what they were doing outside India into Indian customer. So that's how they're going to survive. So they will be, to summarize, they will be realistic valuations, they will be business along with technology. Those are the companies going to survive. Third, we have enough technology companies in India which can absorb some of these startups. They don't need to acquire. You can just make some investment and make him a strategic partner. So there is a room for any company which with the technology advantage. Yes, except the companies who have come with a different purpose and just purely e-commerce, Me Too, those kind of companies will have a problem. Just to add to other issue, Uday was asking about interaction with the government. I am also co-chairman of FICCI for aerospace and defense. Okay. We had an interaction.
That's been a thrust area.
Yeah, thrust area, exactly. So, yeah. Just to tell you on that, we had a media discussion with a group of ministers where important ministers were present along with bureaucrats. So to answer your question, there's a lot of proactive approach by government dealing with the trade bodies like FICCI, CI, etc., trying to understand the base of the problem. When we presented about this manufacturing opportunity in defense and aerospace, as you know, one of the good things of stimulus is they also announced few sectors opening up, whether it's a coal sector, coal sector,
mining coal,
aerospace, defense, etc. They opened up. Second thing, what they said smartly, the public sectors will be there, but no monopoly. You'll have 1, 2, 3 public sectors. Okay, they made the ground rules fair to everybody who want to get in. So in the interaction, I've seen a lot of positive interaction from the government, and one of the ministers personally, through my president, asked me, can you give a small note on aerospace manufacturing, how it can be replicated in India? Okay, so there is a serious effort by the government also, and there are opportunities. Now, if, as I said, 1 or 2 areas, we should put some strong task force consisting of bureaucrats, businessmen, trade bodies, industry experts. That can be captured.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. No, Nishant, come in here. You struck an optimistic note earlier, but what's your advice to entrepreneurs? Some whom are being hard hit at this point. We were talking about some startups who will face very tough times. What should be done about them? But what would be your advice to them on how to stay afloat right now? Because this is the time for survival, and then will be the revival phase later, as we spoke about earlier.
Right. So I think, as Sir was also mentioning, it all boils down to filtration here, right? So we have seen in the last 5 years there has been a surge in the number of people starting up companies, and when you are looking at the balance sheets, it's mostly a loss statement, right? And what I feel, what this has done to the system is that people are getting back to the basics of business. That you have to make money, right? Eventually, you have to make money, and I believe a lot of my peers also, there's a generic feeling that once we are funded, right, we do not really need to care about the cash flows and all, which I personally am not the biggest fan of. So I think this is, in a way, I think it's back to the Darwin's theory, the survival of the fittest. I mean, the fittest people will go ahead, and it will boil down to basics where people are making money. Those will be the companies that will be going forward in the coming times. And apart from that, I think very honestly, with all the people who have good business models, right? It's not difficult to make money, right? I mean, very honestly, we have seen a surge of revenues in our company in the past 4 5 months, right? It's not that good things don't happen. Of course, the processes are difficult right now. The times are difficult, but if your models are solid, right? If your consumer or your end buyer can pay you, and if they see a value proposition, I do not see points where people will be really falling down. And as there's a general vibe that a lot of merger and acquisition will be taking place. I think that's a win-win for a lot of companies out there.
Okay. Anurag, I want to ask you, it's been my favorite theme over the last 10 years, and I asked this to Mr. Panda and to Mr. Gande and to Mr. Pandey, is that, India has never produced a single product company. Sudhakar said that there are enough technology players in India. We have not produced a product company. You think over the next 6 months, 10 months, 12 months, 2 years, we'll see product companies being created in India?
Absolutely. I think the roadmap has been created for that. I think we've always been very, very good with doing software and working on the more, if you will, the more nicer aspect or the intellectual aspects of building out the entire software products and exporting it out to the world. And I think we've been obviously the leaders in that for a long, long, long time. And I think this current situation, and of course, keeping in the geopolitics of the current scenarios, there is a roadmap that the government has laid out for this to happen. I think it's a perfect storm in many ways. And I think it depends on entrepreneurs like us to be there to see, okay, can we seize upon this opportunity and make the most of it? I'm just coming back to one of the points that all the panelists were saying. I think one thing I learned a long time back when I started off is the best place to raise money is from your customer, right? So I think when you look at it from that perspective, sustainability becomes key, and then that's what drives businesses forward. So, but yes, to answer your question, there is clearly a perfect storm being in place right now for somebody to take the mantle and deliver a product organization from India.
I want to ask this question to Sudhakar. Sudhakar, do you really believe there is a product company that will emerge in the next few months, few years, because of what happened in the last 6 months, which will then at least be a national company and maybe become a transnational, multinational, really have a global impact? Or is it pipe dream, like we have?
If you ask me whether something is going to happen in the next 3 months, 6 months, 1 year, certainly not. Okay? Because if you look at software itself is a product. If you say like that is fine, but a global product company is not that easy. One we had was iFlex, which was a banking solutions. It was started by guys from Citibank, but they built a global product. Eventually, it's bought over somebody else. So if you ask me a question whether Indians are capable of building global
capability, I don't think there's ever a question mark. We are capable. We built some of the biggest product companies in the world. Mr. Dham. I mean, I can give you examples.
I don't think
but it's got the environment, it's got the ecosystem.
I'll let you see, the issue here is you take software. For example, I had a friend who was trying to build a software product for MSME kind of things, finance companies. But then he realized it's so tough to build a product and make money, he moved into services and he made a lot of money. So unless you're very, very wedded to the concept, it's not easy. So when you have an opportunistic income coming somewhere else, it will take some time. But to answer your question, yes, there are a bunch of people who are keen on building products, and some of the companies are sitting on cash. For example, you take a company like Infosys, they're sitting on cash. They should earmark $500 million something to build a product. So that kind of thing still not coming to the minds of the boards, etc. But I'm sure it's going to come because the opportunities are very big. And the one good challenge and opportunity for Indians are in the product side, two big markets are US and India, and we are there everywhere. So, to answer your question, yes, there is a possibility, but not in the near future of 3 months, 6 months, 1 year. But yes, you will see some serious companies coming out of India.
You know, I want to ask this to every panelist, and I want to ask honest answer is can give. Is today we are sitting in mid-July. In the next 3 to 6 months, do you see the economy getting worse, getting better, or staying tepid like it is today? And if you can substantiate your answer with an example of why you feel so, it'll be nice.
100 days from today. Who's going first? Who should go first?
Okay. Okay, sure.
Mr. Panda, please go ahead.
Okay. Well, you know, in my opinion, what you will see is the economy is already, from the extreme shock of the early days of the lockdown, you have already seen a little bit of a turnaround happening, and that is beginning to gather pace. What is, of course, as a factor to keep in mind is something I mentioned earlier, which is there are uncertainties going ahead, whether it is global demand, whether it is local demand, whether, if there are peaks in certain areas, you might have targeted containments. And perhaps what we are not talking about a lot is the impact of all of this on, on the minds of the consumer, that even when everything looks to be, sort of normal due just out of sheer anxiety, hold back, certain expenditure or discretionary spending. But having said that, I think if you look at it from the prism of the next, 3 to 4 months, I certainly see a gradual recovery upwards, for the simple reason that I think both the central and the various state governments are being pragmatic about saving lives and livelihoods. So containments, if any, are going to be much more targeted going ahead. And the aim is going to be to allow as many units to operate as possible. So I think that's going to have a positive effect. But having said that, the extreme shock of the first 2-3 months, if you translate it into what will be the impact for the full year, I think it's almost near unanimous consensus right now that there will be a contraction of the economy. And that's the way I see it going ahead.
Okay, so you are saying the economy will be marginally better. Is that what you're saying, Mr. Panda?
Certainly, I think you will see an improving trend, and not to forget that the moment. I mean, again, it's hard to predict when you'll have a vaccine in play and things like that. But there are a lot of factors which can either extend the recovery by a few months or shorten it by a few months. I think it's a little too early to tell, but generally I have a positive bias and a positive outlook going ahead. But that's not to take away the extreme shock of the few days of the first few weeks or a couple of months, which will have its a roll-on effect.
Okay, Mr. Pandey, same question to you. Economy in 3 months from now. We know in the medium and long term, India will do hugely well. But I'm talking immediate 90 days.
See, as a partner of a top tier law firm, I would like to answer it in two ways. One is obviously a domestic, business houses and the foreign investors. And what I can say from my personal experience that every day we receive 2 or 3 inquiries from foreign investors as a top tier firm as how we can assist them, in setting up their operations in India. So that gives us a signal that yes, there is active interest, and if these investments would actually turn into reality, then it is going to, take very less time in actually reviving the economy. Similarly, from a domestic business front, what we are seeing that, a lot of restructuring opportunities which has been created because of this pandemic. And as someone has just mentioned that because of the falling valuations and obviously companies with deeper pockets, they would like to leverage this as an opportunity and kind of try and expand their ambit within the country. So from that perspective, I'm seeing that because the businesses are bullish, they are showing interest and they are looking to invest in new venues. So from my perspective, I think it should revive in the next 3 to 6 months. That's my feeling, is based on whatever the inquiries which we are getting.
Okay, Nishant Bahl.
Yes, sir. So, as I started the, conversation, I already told you, in our organization, we have already seen the sentiment has started to kick in, and things are starting to come back. We would be naive by saying that things will be back to absolute normal in the next 100 days. That is not happening anytime soon. But definitely, I think the big portion of it is that we are reviving as an economy and as a nation. And apart from that, I also believe as a nation, once the export for all the PPE equipment and all is also open, I think that would be a very big kick in, because I think it's valued at somewhere around $1 billion per week, right? So that's a big chunk. We are all waiting for it. As a country, we are waiting for it. All the export houses are waiting for it, because I think that's the right place to make money for the country for at least the next 3 to 6 months. So that is my pick on it.
Anurag?
Yeah, I do think that the economy will start to get better in the 3 to 6 months for largely two reasons. One is the government stimulus, which will take its time to kick in, and hopefully in the next quarter or so, you'll start to see that. And secondly, businesses have adapted, they're adopting new technology, they're adapting new ways of doing business, which will start to see the resurgence of businesses, as Atul had mentioned, will start to come back. And I think both those two factors will start to play a part in the businesses moving forward. And of course, once we start to see the consumer demand pick up, which will start to see that coming through, because people will start to see that, we should start to see the economy getting better in the next 3 to 6 months.
Sudhakar Kande, your final word.
If you look at next 100 days, 3 months, etc., I don't see too much of improvement. For one reason, Anurag, the number of cases spiking up. Like, for example, to look at Karnataka, we have been under lockdown again for next 1 week. So if you ask me, the number of cases are going up, and still there is no policy implementation at the factory level. I got a friend who had a 500 employee factory, started 30-40% occupancy workers.
For more such videos, subscribe to the NewsX YouTube channel, hit the bell icon.